So Virgil, how good is Amir?
He's doing well. He's progressing along in camp. Everything is on schedule. I'm pleased where he is right now. We have 3 more weeks to go and put the finishing touches on it and see how everything turns out.
What do you think he's got that might trouble Terence Crawford?
Well, the first thing comes to mind is always his hand speed. Try to bring his IQ up with his hand speed. I always said he could have been a better student of the game, but at the same time, you have to let his instincts take focus and his reactions take focus. And if he's in tune every second, every round, he should do well.
That has been one of the issues with Amir. Two things really: fighting with his heart, fighting with his emotion, and perhaps losing concentration sometimes.
That's true. That's why I always said I was good for him, because I communicate with him while he's in the ring. Unfortunately, we had the Canelo setback, a fight I was totally against and never wanted him to take. We were doing extremely well before that happened. He had had 2 big wins with Collazo and Devin Alexander, and I felt he was ready for a Danny Garcia rematch or Sean Porter. He was on a roll. Unfortunately, took that fight and it set him back 2 years, so he's basically starting all over again.
Why didn't you want that fight in case what happened?
Because there was no room for error. You have to have some sort of margin for error, and he had none. They wouldn't make any concessions. So it was a fight that called for him to fight above his head against a guy who had all the advantages. We had none. And in a fight of that magnitude, you want to have some sort of advantages going your way. All we had was speed and the ability to box, which he proved until he made a mistake.
Did you guys talk about calling it a day then with Amir?
I'm sorry?
Did you guys talk about calling it a day and not fighting again?
No, we never talked about that. I think he took the time off. That was his own decision for whatever reason. It was quite a while. I'm glad he did, taking a punch like that. You do need time to recuperate and reassess your career and see if you really want to do it again.
Tell me how good Terence Crawford is.
Well, he's, in my book, probably right there, top pound for pound. Very good. A huge obstacle, a huge puzzle to overcome.
What does he do well?
He does a lot of everything well. He assesses the situation well. He has an outstanding IQ, along with the physical attributes to complement that IQ and understanding of the sport. And he's a proven winner.
How do you deal with, or how do you prepare Amir for someone who switches the way that Crawford does?
Well, we have southpaw sparring in camp. I have a very quick guy. He's not as lengthy as Crawford, but he's quick. And he has to be prepared for that. I do drills from the southpaw side. So I expect Crawford, who's shown that he'll fight southpaw 80–90% of the time in his last several fights, to definitely go southpaw.
Have you seen any vulnerabilities in Crawford's game?
Not that I can think of. I hear things that come from the gym. I have a pretty reliable pipeline on things that get out, as far as his punch resistance to the body and to the head. So whether or not that's true, we'll find out. But in this game, you know, you have to be well connected and get gym batter, so to speak, that comes from the back door. So I've got some interesting comments and things from Top Rank themselves. So we'll see if that's true or not.
Okay. People talk about Amir and his vulnerabilities. What do you say about that? People talk about his ability to take a punch.
I think I look at it 2 ways. I think that he puts himself in a position to get hit. I mean, if you listen to the public and the consensus of the people in the sport, it's like he gets knocked out every time he fights. Well, the Canelo fight, you have to concede that. I mean, he was up against it. The Garcia fight, I always said that Angel Garcia won that fight for Danny by insulting his race and insulting the Pakistani race, and Amir took it personal. So Angel Garcia won that fight. He forgot the boxing match. He took it personal, wanted to knock Danny Garcia out, so he left himself vulnerable. The Breeders' Prescott fight, he was in too soon with a puncher. You don't put a young prospect with 8 or 9 fights in with a puncher. So that was bad matchmaking right there. So, you know, you can look at it a lot of different ways. The last fight he had a mental lapse. He knocked a guy down early, figured it was going to be an easy fight, and he lost concentration for a split second and got knocked down himself. So you have to keep him in tune, have to keep him up and sharp every second of every round, and I think that helps him.
Okay. There was a lot of talk in the UK that people wanted Amir to fight Kell Brook. Did you have a preference, Crawford or Brook?
Well, I don't think he made a bad decision choosing Crawford. I mean, the Kell Brook fight will be there regardless of what people say. It's a grudge match with the huge support in the UK. It's a fight that'll be supported. It might not be as big as it was as far as what's on the line, but as far as who's going to come on top finally, I think it'll be huge interest in that fight. So I think from a business perspective, he made the right move, knowing that the Brook fight would always be there, but if he lost the Brook, the Crawford fight wouldn't be. And he'd come into the fight with more leverage.
You've obviously been unwell, but now you're back. How does it feel to be back in the gym and doing what you do?
It feels good. I've been back active since March of April of last year. Had a sudden health scare, unexpected, but overcame it, 100% recovered. So
How serious was it?
It was quite serious. I had an allergic reaction to, my back was giving me a lot of problems. And I had to go to New York for a Darrell fight. And I told my doctor, look, you got to give me something. My back is not getting any better. So he prescribed me a steroid, Deca, or whatever it was. It stopped the back from hurting in the day, but I started having allergic reactions to it. Unknown, I didn't think much of it, but it's a pill that you have to wean back down off of. You take it a week and then you wean back down off after a week. But after a few days, I couldn't stop hiccuping. Started feeling weak, started feeling kind of dizzy, a little disoriented, started getting real thirsty, going to the bathroom a lot. Well, came home from New York, felt so bad, I left my bags at the door and got into the bed. I was supposed to go to Las Vegas the next day for Tony Yoka to spar Parker for Joshua. And my wife called to see if I made the car connect, and I didn't pick up. And she called a couple of more times, and I didn't pick up, and something told her something wasn't right. So she left work and came home, found me collapsed on the steps. Well, what happened was the pill, I had an adverse reaction to the Deca, and it shot my blood sugar up to 1400, which is stroke zone, which is heart attack zone. So it was bad the first couple of nights. My kidneys, everything shut down. It happened just like that. But I'm glad to say I'm not on insulin or anything else like that.
Were you in real danger then?
I was. If she hadn't have found me, or if I'd have collapsed in New York, because I stayed back 2 extra days in New York to get the rest. And I had a do not disturb sign on the door. So if I'd have collapsed in there with that do not disturb sign, I don't know telling how long it would have took for someone to find me. But she had the intuition to sense something wasn't right, you know, just knowing your companion. And, you know, thank God she made the right move and came home and found me on the stairs collapsed. I probably had been there about an hour. So I was in a coma, diabetic coma.
Through your rehabilitation, did you think that you might not come back to boxing? Was that going through your mind that it was over?
No, it never crossed my mind. I knew some obstacles I had to overcome. I had to learn how to walk again and those things. And my doctor told me that he never saw anybody make a miraculous recovery like I did in a short sense of time. I remember where my mind was made up that I was coming back was a physical therapist coming with a walker inside of my hospital bed and says, you know, you got to start walking again. And in my mind, I could walk. I said, what are you talking about? I can get up and walk. She said, no, you can't. Yes, I can. I said, okay, well, sit on the side of the bed and get up. And I couldn't. So that's when I made up my mind, I got to get going. You know, the strength was there. It's just that being in a coma for a couple of weeks kind of set everything back. So, but I was, from that point on, I was out of the hospital in 2 weeks and embarked on a real rigorous physical program. And I was back in the gym. That happened in late March. I was back in the gym in late April.
You talk about your mindset and when you saw the walk of that determination. It seems that quite a lot of your coaching is mindset based and about getting fighters fit mentally as well as physically. Is that correct?
Well, I think the game is 90% mental. The conditioning part is easy. I try to impart on it what it takes mentally to win a fight and to be focused at all times. And when you're in camp, the camp doesn't start at the gym. It starts wherever you rest in your head. Every second of every day until the fight is over with. So I try to appeal to each one's mental capacities and their personalities and try to get the most out of the fighters.
Yeah. What qualities does Amir have that makes you want to work with him?
Well, he's a gifted fighter, physically gifted, mentally, when he has a challenge, he's up for it. He works hard. He's got a good engine on him. He's still young. He hasn't lost any of his hand speed. It just depends on where his head is. And right now, he knows he's in a very dangerous fight, and a fight that could really come up short in. So mentally, he's doing the right thing in preparation.
What's he like as a student?
When I have him in the gym, he's a good student. I can't speak for him when he's away. So I give him credit for being a good student in the gym and wanting to learn and wanting to follow a fight plan.
Andre Ward, was he a good student?
He was the best. But I had him from 9 years old. I was able to indoctrinate my philosophy to him, and he grabbed it and went with it. He was just driven a different way. He was serious about the sport from the time he started it, cut no corners, and was just a winner.
Are you pleased to see him retired now?
Exactly, that's how we planned it. We talked about that years ago when he was in his early teens, you know, to get out healthy, get out with plenty of money, have a second career in place, an exit strategy, and thank God it turned out that way.
Is there enough money out there to tempt him back?
It would have to be a boatload of money, and I don't think that that'll happen. So
I don't know, there's some big boats out there at the minute.
Well, it remains to be seen. You never say never.
Would you like to see him in a super fight with someone like a Canelo, someone that, because he's been the A side on a lot of his big fights. He's never really been an underdog against Canelo, who I wouldn't say be an underdog against. Canelo's the draw. It would allow him life-changing money.
Well,
on a platform he hasn't been on.
He's already got his life. He did well with his finances, so he's set for life. He's managed his money well. Didn't splurge and spend foolishly. So, of course, if he chose to take that fight, I'd be behind him 100%.
Just a theoretical one. who would have won, Andre Ward or Joe Calzaghe? People say they're the two best ever at super middleweight.
I hear God bless his soul, rest in peace, Enzo Calzaghe, say that Joe would have won. But if you look at a few of his fights with Bika, some of the guys that he struggled with, I know he had a good work rate and things like that, but Andre had the ability to offset timing and to make you do things that you didn't want to do. So it'd be hard to say, let Joe have his position and place in the super middleweight division and let Andre have his. And it's just something that the boxing world will talk about that'll never happen.
Just one last one. What happens in the fight between Amir and Terence Crawford? How do you see it going down in terms of styles and the fight itself?
I think each one brings their set of troubles to the table that the other one I have to figure out. Again, Amir is going to have to be on point every second of every round. Can't afford to lose focus and concentration and take it one round at a time.
Crawford versus Khan, live only on BT Sport Box Office.